two guys that they were on the in the capsule, and it was supposed to be a test run. They weren't going anywhere, but there was an oxygen leak, and their fire broke out, and they couldn't get them out, and they just fucking. You heard they said you heard them screaming in there. You know, it's so. I mean, it goes with the territory. Hello, everybody. We are live at my place, Goody's My Place. And before we get into our topic, I just want to thank the sponsor, Goody's Granola. It's the snack you didn't know you were waiting for, and you have to eat it to believe it. Gluten-free, dairy-free, organic, and the taste that doesn't stop. Check it out at your local Whole Foods. Anyway, tonight we have... I feel a very special subject, a subject that really touches thousands and thousands of people. It's addiction and recovery. And I have two special people here with me. One I knew since she was a child, and one I met a few years ago. I want to introduce Gemma and Eugene. Now, these two folks are recovering addicts. They've been clean and sober for 13 years. They met at recovery. They have married, and what they do is they actually hold their meetings at NA. So that is our topic today. We're going to run the gamut on how it starts, whatever. I'm not going to go over that now. I'll let them explain that. And Gemma?
Yeah?
Eugene, I want to thank you folks for being here. It's crazy, and I want you to introduce yourself. Gemma, introduce yourself and say hi to the folks.
Hi to the folks. My name is Gemma. Which one am I looking at? All right.
Camera one.
Sounds good.
This is live, folks. So bear with us. We're having a good time. You're going to see something that's not actually edited. Go.
Good. Hi to the folks. My name is Gemma. You're correct. I have 13 years clean. Eugene does not have 13 years clean. He's close, but want to get the facts right.
Well, we're going to get into that. We're going to get in. That's part of this arc that we're going to have. Eugene, you want to say hello?
Sure. First of all, Alan, thanks for having us. She's right. I do not have 13 years clean. I'm coming up on 6 on April 19th. So
That's a relapse, though. But you started off together, and
yeah,
that's how you met.
we did start off together.
That's
yeah.
how you met, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
We met in the rooms. Yeah.
and then you fell in love and married.
So that did
I
happen.
think there are a few more details. But yes.
It wasn't that smooth, but we did
Yeah.
get there. Yeah.
All right, well, that's very cool. I
Yeah.
mean, I've known you since you were a child. You know, I watched you grow and evolve. And you, I met maybe just a few years ago at one of the dinners for the holidays, I believe. It could have been
You were
Hanukkah.
at our wedding.
Oh yeah.
I was?
Yeah.
I think.
I don't think so.
No, I'm pretty sure
No?
you were.
No, you
No,
were.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we got your gift, so.
Maybe I was high.
Yeah, it's possible.
I
Yeah. There was an open bar. It was.
No, and I'm not a drinker.
Yeah.
I'm not a big drinker. I had my share in college and never really developed a taste for it. I used to like scotch. Party here, and your dad was a scotch drinker.
Yeah.
And I had this 25-year-old bottle of scotch. Back in the day, it was like $350 or $300. And your dad comes over with this bottle, and he goes, "Wow, this is the best scotch I ever had." I'm going to myself, "Jay, it's $300 for that bottle. Chill with that stuff." But he was cool, man. He helped us out. I mean, he deserved that drink. But I never really developed a taste for alcohol, even beer. I drink one beer and I'm like, I couldn't drive a car for a while. I would have to let that come down.
Well, I don't know if you ever drank at our house, but I used to steal the bottles and water them down.
Oh,
So
really?
you might not have had the best.
Maybe that's why. I thought Jay was doing that. Save a couple of bucks. Who knew? But what I would like for you to do now, I want to get a little background on each of you. How it started, you know, how old you were, what was your gateway drug? So I'm giving you a bunch of questions. I'm bundling what they call. So Gemma, if you don't mind, you know, just give us a little background of when the drug started. What drug could have been alcohol? It could have been any, but I don't know. So you're going to have to tell us how old you were when it started, and a little bit of progression, and then we'll get into Eugene. Same question.
Don't hold back.
I started using when I was about 12 or 13.
Wow.
I had my first beer at 9. I remember we were at a barbecue and
Were you with your parents at the time?
yeah, it was my parents' house. We had a barbecue.
Did they give you the?
No. They weren't those kind of parents. But you know, I remember there were a bunch of kids, you know, we stole this beer and we all like, you know, found a place secluded to go around and drink this beer. And everyone was like, "Oh, this is gross, this is disgusting." And I remember being like, "Oh yeah, it's gross." And then I like snuck away to drink the rest of it.
Well, I remember we had a party here. Yeah, you were here, and I think you had some friends here looking for something to drink.
That's possible.
Yeah, no, I remember.
That's
now.
very possible.
That I couldn't do. I mean, your parents were here.
Yeah.
And you didn't talk to me for years after that.
It wasn't personal. I probably have no memory of this party. Yeah.
Anyway, you want to continue? So you were like 12, 13, you had your first
13,
beer.
I started smoking weed. You know, wanted to fit in, wanted to be a part of, wanted to be cool. And then it very quickly progressed to pills. And then that ruined my life.
Well, now, when you were doing this, you had a set amount. You had set friends before you started this.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
Were they part of the introduction to it?
So the friends that I started using with, it was very casual. It was very, you know, we were young, we were 14, we started smoking weed and drinking in Prospect Park, as people do. And yeah, it was fun in the beginning. It's always fun.
It's always fun at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a good time doing it. I mean, it's always fun to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some people become either mentally addicted or physically addicted, or it could be both. You know, I was addicted to. I am addicted to sugar and cigarettes.
Yeah.
If I would have one cigarette now, I would have to go and get another one tomorrow. I used to buy Lucy's,
Yeah.
and so I used to take one, and I get in my car and I go where I'd have to go. But then the following day, I would say, you know what? Let me take one now. I'll buy two. I'll
For
take
the way
one
back,
now,
for the way
and one
back.
for the way
Of
back.
course.
Yeah.
Then it came one for the way, one to go, one for the way back, and one to walk my dog.
Yeah.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, that was the progression I had, and I started, smoking again. And sugar, I don't smoke now.
Yeah.
I stopped that. But sugar, when I was growing up, it was Devil Dogs and Malamars and all kinds of ding dongs and Twinkies, which they still sell. But I would get like a thing of Chips Ahoy or Oreos. It has 3 rows, and I would eat a row by myself.
Yeah.
I would eat ice cream, fill up a cup, put it in the freezer, bring the cup back into the kitchen, and say, "Well, go to the freezer, just one more spoonful," and I'd
There are
start.
meetings for that.
Well, I kicked that on my own.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for
But
you.
I would sit there and I would eat more while the freezer was open, so I know what kind of feels for addiction and stuff. It's not an easy. A lot of it was cigarettes was mental because you associate so many things to it.
Sure.
I mean, you get up,
Yeah.
go to the bathroom, you light a cigarette,
After you eat,
have
after
a
a
cup
meal.
of coffee, after sex, while you're driving a car, while you're on the phone, everything.
While you're in the
walking
shower.
the dog.
Yeah.
Walking the dog. That was rough though. In the shower,
Yeah.
you have to kind of stick your head
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
yeah. Get everything right.
Yeah.
But that was part of the biggest problem that I found.
Yeah.
Is all the associated things that go with that addiction. But that's enough about me now. Anyway, Eugene, I'd like to give us a little background at your age, how you started.
Sure. But before I say anything, you mentioned that we're in NA, and one of the big things is like we don't really promote it. It's more like if somebody sees the way we've changed our life and they like the way we're doing things, it's more of a program of attraction. So, and I say that to also say that we're not representatives for NA or anything like that because we are flawed just like every other human. So if there's something people see us do, we don't want them to be like, oh, look at those people from NA, like they do, they live life like. I don't like the way they did something like that, and then to disqualify the program because of that. So I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm like, should I mention them even? And should I just say 12-step or NA? But I think it's important to kind of like create that barrier that we're not representing it, we're just members of it, and it works for us.
I think you're more like inspiration. It's more
And
like it's.
That's
like,
the idea.
Like what's it called? A gatekeeper or.
No,
the
but
key to the gate or something,
No, we're not the keys to the gate. We're just fellow
No,
members.
but you can. You're guiding people. You're helping people. You're showing them that there's maybe some hope. When people get down to that level, I mean, they really need some help. Where they just can't do it anymore. I had a friend that his son was an addict, and he took him in his house a few times. He ended up stealing money from him, and he had to just throw him out and discard him, which bothers him probably today. How can you do that to your children? But there's just so much you can do.
Yeah, tough love.
Yeah.
No, it's
I mean, that's a part of your story.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of my story.
Yeah.
What's that?
Having to leave. I remember once
Speak up a little bit. Too.
Sure,
No,
so-
you don't have to go.
all right.
Okay. This is live. I don't know. I don't have
Yeah.
my hearing.
Thank
aid.
you, because otherwise I'd be sitting like this the whole time, and my back would hurt by the end of it.
Hello.
But yeah, I had to mention that because we
Why
don't
you mention what?
that we're not representatives for NA. It's a program that works for us, and like you said, if somebody sees that it works for us, that's the attraction part of it. But we don't promote it. I don't go up to people like, hey, you need to do this.
No, I don't think that's your job.
No.
But
You just
like
want
even
it to
this
start.
this podcast, I don't know how many people, if anyone's even going to watch this thing. But if one person could watch this and get some kind of help and inspiration.
Sure, that'd be amazing.
I mean-
Actually, let me I'm gonna since it's live. Why don't you share it on your page so that make sure that your friends see it. Like share it on.
Well, here, set this
I'll
up
do
for
it.
me.
Yeah.
Set this. We're live. We're live.
They'll
I
see
feel
that.
like we're dying, but we're live.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess you know, it's funny because when I was going to like even junior high school, my friends, you know, they would smoke weed or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, that's not really for me. I was just, I don't know. I thought drugs were bad. I guess the messaging worked until it didn't. And I remember the first time, I was probably about 13-ish or something, and it was my mom's birthday. We were in a Russian restaurant, and I don't know why I wanted to try drinking. So I just kept putting vodka into like my, you know, my cola or whatever.
Do you like alcohol?
It wasn't my thing. Once I started getting heavy into the drugs, I didn't really drink. They didn't mix well.
No.
Yeah.
I've been there and done that.
Yeah. So that was definitely the first time I ever got drunk, and I think that's the first time I ever felt really comfortable, and everything kind of started making. I wasn't afraid of the world. I think that was the biggest thing. It wasn't even about fitting in. There was nobody there for me to fit in with. It was like my parents and, you know, their friends and all that. But I remember being super comfortable and feeling safe.
Well, you know, it's like when I smoked my first joint when I was 14, and I had a friend, this guy named John Gray, who lived in the Baby Projects, and he came back, and he was a very good friend of mine, and he was going to the School of Art and Design, I believe, and he came back and he said, "Look at this," and he said, I said, "What is that?" He said, "It's a reefer." I said,
Yeah.
"Wow," and he said, "You want to smoke it?" I said, "Is it addictive?" And he said, "No, it's not addictive." So I smoked with him, and I'm an older guy now, and I'm still smoking this stuff. Not as much though. I can't do it as much as I can. I can't do it at work. When I was involved in the theater, I knew people that would smoke before or drink before they went on stage, and I thought they were out of their mind. You know, I just don't think you could be 100% if you're high on some kind of substance. You know,
Sure.
That's just my opinion.
No,
Guys,
I
did
agree
it,
with
and,
you.
and
Yeah.
guys got away with it.
No.
I couldn't get away with it because I thought everything I was doing was stupid when I was high. You know, and I said, "This is ridiculous. What am I doing?" I went to work. I was selling Time Life books in Colorado, and I went in there high, and there were all these people with these headphones, and they're walking around begging people to buy these books. And I'm going, "What the fuck am I doing here?" You know, so I left. So I really don't get high until my day's over if I do that.
Well, that's the difference between me and you. I'll say I won't get high till the day's over, but I always end up doing
Well,
it.
I didn't become addicted to drugs, and I used to take a lot of pills, like Tuinals and Secanols, and I built up a tolerance. I used to drive a car with this stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Smart guy, but
same thing at work.
every day. I never got addicted to it. Like I did try cocaine. I didn't like that.
That's the thing. If you build, you know, the problem with addiction is you build up a tolerance. So you'll hear a lot of people say, like, at the end, I wasn't even getting high.
No,
you're
keep
just
chasing it. You keep chasing it.
Yeah, and at the end, like so a lot of people could, you know, feasibly go to work, and people might not even know because they're just trying to sort of have a baseline. They're just trying to be okay or get straight or whatever. They're not even getting high at the end.
I used to take. We had Tuinals and Secanols, and I used to take. I was taking 10 at a time. I started with one, and after a while, and I would drive a car, and I'd be like this, driving a car. And thank God I never hurt anybody. Well, I didn't get hurt. I didn't get into an accident. But it was stupidity. It was, you know, you were young and stupid at the time. And,
you were invincible. So,
well,
that's the mentality.
You're young, you think you are.
Exactly.
That's why when young people get into it, and they think nothing's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
And a few of my friends just never made it out of the teenage years.
Sure.
It's very sad. But anyway, nice.
But yeah, it didn't progress for me for a long time. So, you know, if I had my drink or whatever at 12, 13, things didn't start getting bad for at least another 7, 8 years down the road. Up until that point, it was still fun. Where, you know, we're going to clubs, going to bars, whatever. But I didn't need it to function. Or at least it didn't feel that way yet.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I want to go back to like the origins, and I want to. You started at 12, 13 with the first beer, and you were getting high socially. When did it start affecting you? Where it was like you gotta have it, and how did your parents find out, and how did they react to this stuff?
Sure. It escalated quickly. I felt like when I started using, especially when I started using opiates, I felt like it fixed something inside of me. Like it made me feel normal. I thought like, oh, this is how everyone else feels. I didn't have this anxiety. I didn't feel afraid of the world. Like it was like a warm blanket.
He stole my
Yeah.
thing.
It was, and so it very quickly started with one to, like you said, the progression, and I was getting away with it for a while up until I wasn't, and
What do you mean by wasn't? What happened?
people could tell I would be nodding off. I wasn't.
Yeah, that's a definite sign.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Like
I
one
was.
in the afternoon, and
Yeah, I wasn't myself.
Jim was nodding off in the corner.
Yeah, and at 15 I OD'd, and my mom found me, and
What
yeah,
did you do?
oxys.
No kidding.
And
Where'd you get 'em?
I was stealing them from my dad. Yeah. So I had what I thought was an unlimited supply, and in the beginning it felt like it because he wasn't an addict, so he would have pills and then pills he didn't use and old pills. He had a stash, and I would clean them out. And it started later on. It got worse, but at that time nobody knew yet. And my mom just thought I was smoking weed. She thought I don't know. And I would pass out all the time. I would just pass out, and she, whatever. It was just a regular part of my life. For some reason, that night, she said she felt this really intense urge to wake me up. She felt like something was wrong, something wasn't right. She woke me up. She could tell something was very wrong. She called the hospital, and they told me that if she hadn't woke me up, I probably would have died.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so it was very traumatic because she, was sort of responsible for this moment. And I was in the hospital for 3 or 4 days before.
Have to pump your stomach, right?
I don't remember. I was really out of it. And that's when that's when everyone found out. Like that's when like the jig was kind of up. I ended up in rehab after that. It didn't stick. It didn't work. I wasn't ready to get clean. I really believe.
Did they take you? Did you want to go to rehab? Was there a struggle to get you in rehab?
I think it was just like the thing you do, like it becomes apparent someone has a drug problem. So the hospital recommends a rehab. And
Do you personally say you have a problem? Some people kind of don't even, think they don't have a problem.
Sure.
And they say, well, I don't need to go to rehab. Look at,
I don't know how. I knew I had a problem, but at that time, I just wanted to get people off my back. I didn't want to stop using. I just wanted people to leave me alone.
Did you go away to rehab?
Yeah, I went to upstate. I went to a 28-day rehab. I did not last the 28 days. I AMA'd, or left against medical advice after about 2 weeks.
AMA was?
Leaving against medical advice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it got worse from there. That's when my parents put in a safe in the house to keep
the drugs.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I had a friend that used to go into everybody's
Medicine cap. Yeah.
I'm your friend.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty standard.
Yeah.
This guy, and he was, his name was Richard Schoenberg. His nickname was Duds. Very talented athlete and a guitar player. Could be a real asshole at times, but one of the guys. And he got busted a few times, and his father was a sergeant in the police force, and he always got him off. In Bayview, we have these terraces on every floor. It's like that's a long thing with a door and gates in front of it.
Yeah.
So that's where they used to put him as punishment, like that, like a caged animal. Oh. And what happened with him, God rest his soul, he drove his bike. He used to drive. We had a place called Charcoal Chef, and first we'd hang out at Goody's Luncheonette, then Charcoal Chef, till the wee hours of the morning, like Friday and Saturday. And he used to walk this long parking lot preaching, look what drugs are doing to me. You got to stay off of drugs. And he would do all kinds of this shit. And they couldn't find him for maybe a week or two. What happened was he drove his bike on the Bell Parkway.
Oh my God.
Not on the bicycle path, on the Bell Parkway.
Yeah.
But he drove against the traffic and a car hit him like doing 60.
Yeah, sure.
And I wasn't privy to seeing him, but I heard he was in the morgue for like a week and a half till they can identify him.
Oh my God.
So I mean it was a tragedy. A lot of talent, you know, and this was the era I grew up in, the hippie era, and everything was good. Acid, this, Tuinol, Seconals. We used to sit there and buy lids. I told you that before. We'd go in the village and buy lids for like $10 and go park off the parkway and roll joints and think we were getting high, not sure we were getting high. But it was quite a scene. I want to get back to you, but you want to give a little history on that too, of when your progression, what your parents found out, or
So
were you living with your folks, or?
I'm a little bit different from her, and that's what
Okay,
I'm a slow burn. Like, it took me a while. On the outside, I was able to keep things together for a while. Always had a good job. Showed up at work even, you know.
Wore a suit to work.
Wore a suit to work,
Yeah.
and I was like,
That's what I
oh.
was going to ask, how it affects your work, but evidently
Yeah,
you were a good user.
Yeah.
You could work at the same time.
Whatever that means, I guess I was.
I mean,
No, I'm just kidding. I get what you're
No,
saying.
that's
Yeah.
okay. You were.
Yeah. I mean,
You were a productive user.
Until he wasn't.
I was going through the motions. That's the issue. Like, even though I was able to hold down a job until it took me probably almost 10 years before it spiraled to the point where I just, couldn't function anymore with or without the drugs.
What were you using at that point? Or
Um,
what were you using at that point? Let me ask that question.
So for the-
Maybe that's easier to ask.
Sure. I mean, I used pretty much anything I got my hands on, but I specifically liked opiates. That was always my thing. Whatever was available, that's basically what I took, opiates-wise. And I think, like, every single time things would start getting a little crazy, I'm like, okay, I can't afford to lose this job. Let's figure out a way to kind of reel it in. And I did that for a really long time. So I was like, if I can do this, like, I'm probably not an addict. Like, I'm able to hold down a job. Like, I had these, like...
It's like a functioning addict.
But the part that nobody saw was, like, I was miserable. Like, I was just an empty shell. All I was doing was, like, these are the motions I need to go through so I can have a job, and I want the job so I can buy more drugs. And that was my life. Like, so even though it looked functional, I mean, that's not really functional. If my whole life exists of just getting...
That's a good question. I
Yeah.
want to get to that, to ask you that. How you afforded to pay for your drugs.
Yeah, so I mean, but that took a really long time since the first time I picked up a drug to where things became truly unmanageable. The inner unmanageability happened pretty quickly. Like, I was miserable. Like, once I started actually, like, I didn't know I was going to be addicted to opiates or anything like that.
I don't think anybody knows.
I mean, I was completely, like, completely naive. Like, I remember I was doing them for a couple of months, and then I showed up to work, and one of my friends was doing that, he was also using them with me, and I was like, dude, I feel really sick. And he's like, oh, when's the last time you took, like, a pain medication? And I was like, I don't know, a couple of days ago. He's like, well, that's why. And that was my first introduction to, like, oh, this is withdrawals. They suck.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I thought I was getting, like, the flu or something, and that was, like, when my reality changed, where I'm like, holy shit, if I don't want to get sick, I have to keep doing this. And at that point, I volunteered for another job. my next full-time job was basically making sure I had drugs.
What do you mean by what opiates were you taking? Either one of you, both of you.
Mostly pills. Oxycontin.
Okay.
Yeah. I did do heroin for a little while, but not...
See, I was lucky. I tried heroin twice. I even shot it twice with a bunch of guys.
Nice.
But I didn't like it. I said, this
Yeah.
I don't like needles. The whole thing was like kind of disgusted me, the whole process, like cocaine. I didn't like the coke that we were getting off the street was cut.
Yeah.
And when you come down from the cocaine, you're grinding your teeth on whatever they cut it with.
Yeah.
So I didn't like it either. But when I was, when I was a limo driver, I drove this psychiatrist, a Fifth Avenue psychiatrist, and he said I'd had to take him out to the Hamptons. I was tired. He said, "Take this," and it was pharmaceutical. I could have drove for another week. You know, these guys that are coming back from the moon, gave me pharmaceutical cocaine that was like pure.
Yeah.
And these guys coming back from the moon, I could have drove to the moon and back after I drove him to the Hamptons. But that I can see someone getting addicted to. Sure. It was great. It was great. I became his driver for a while.
Let me guess, he paid you with the pharmaceutical.
Okay. that was the tip.
Gotcha.
That was the tip. He said, "Here, take this." Oh, okay. But I was lucky. I wasn't addicted to any of this stuff.
Well, it's funny because there are people who have a drug problem, or and then there are people who just abuse drugs and then stop.
Then they stop.
Yeah, and then there are people who are addicts, and it's like people can have. I know people like there are people who I used with who used the same drugs that I did, just as heavily as I did, and then stopped. I don't believe this.
Well, I was in that category. I told you with the Knolls. We were the Knoll brothers. One with me and two other guys. Tuinol, Seconol, Nebutol. 24-hour day sunglasses, no matter where. So, but thank God one of the guys actually became an addict. Two of them are dead, so I'm the last of the Knoll brothers.
Yeah, but it's fun, it's hard to understand or explain, but there are people who just go on with their life and say, okay, I can't keep doing that anymore, and they stop, and then there are people like us who just for whatever reason can't.
Well, I always look at so one of the studies done was in Vietnam. A lot of people who were in Vietnam.
Oh, I know those people too.
Yeah, obviously there were horrendous, circumstances, and their environments were just unbearable, I think, at times. And I think a lot of people used opiates there.
Well, you took guys like me. Well, I was like 18, 19 at the time, middle class family, and you're taking guys like me and throwing them into a jungle.
Sure, I can't even imagine.
Trying to kill people.
Sure.
You're stepping on landmine or whatever, and the heat and the mosquitoes.
Yeah, you do what you can to make it just a little more bearable.
And they would hear what was going on here. We would kind of protest against it. It was a stupid war. 58,000 guys got killed in there. And that was one of their main crops. Opium.
That's the crazy
hashish,
part. Majority of people who used opium there, or whatever form of an opiate that they used there, once they came back to the States, majority of them stopped using. They went through the physical withdrawal part, which was one of the scarier parts, but then the amount of people that continued to use, I want to say, I don't know the number exactly, but it's probably around 10% or something.
Well, I had two people that I know, I won't mention names here, but they came back really fucked up from the fighting and then the drugs. They got what do they call it when they have it's reoccurring thing.
PTSD.
Yeah. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting how people could just have do it there and then come back. And,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you're taking them from here to there, and then you're trying to bring them back here again into a normal life.
Yeah.
Where people are calling them baby killers and spitting on them, when they get to the airport. People hated these guys, and it wasn't their fault. I mean, they were there. You were drafted.
But I guess the question there is why did those people who came back who couldn't quit, what was the difference between them?
It's just like here, it's genetic makeup.
And that's the question. I think when it comes to drugs, my shut-off switch is broken.
I don't have an off switch.
Yeah, when the other people who ended up going through withdrawal, and then they're like, hey, this is a terrible idea. My life is a lot better now. I probably shouldn't continue using, drugs, period. And then there are people who just, for whatever reason, it's that loop doesn't stop. And it just continues to tell them, keep going, keep going, keep going, regardless of how bad, the consequences
Well,
are.
one of the questions I was going to ask, the mental health conditions intersect with substance abuse.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
guess that definitely does.
A lot of people are self-medicating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, today, I mean, they're doing it.
No, I mean, no matter what.
I think people have always self-medicated. They found something to escape. You know, it's. I don't think it's a new thing.
No, it's not. But a lot of people, we often talk about coming from families where we didn't have the best coping skills. We didn't learn how to deal with feelings. We didn't, nobody talked about things. Everyone stuffed things down, and you
add a little bit of trauma on top
of
that.
Yeah. And so you have anxiety, you have depression, and drugs are a way to deal with those things until they're not. But a lot of people are self-medicating.
Yeah, a lot of it is escapism.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like a lot of people have anxiety and depression, but most of them don't use drugs, or they don't continue using them nonstop.
Well, I think that there's a lot of that stuff going on now with the internet and TikTok and social media, where you see all these crazy. I get addicted to TikTok. I sit there.
Oh, I had to delete TikTok. It's too addicting.
I sit there and waste an hour.
Yeah.
Looking at mullahs, we're taking over. This guy's doing this, and it can drive people crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, just I had to put that away for a while. Yeah. I still watch it though once in a while. Especially, it's good bathroom material.
Yeah. To an extent.
Well.
As long as you're not sitting on the toilet for an hour.
Now, listen,
my legs are numb.
Yeah.
My legs went.
Yeah. Oh, you're not the first.
I had a heating pole in front of the toilet.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there for so long, I stood up, I almost fell over. Both of my legs fell asleep.
Yeah.
I had to grab onto this
And
pipe.
it's hot at the same time. Choose your evil.
Were you there?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, man.
Well, I keep going for one glass here. I'm just looking for questions. Okay. Well, we answered this question. What's the difference between drug use, abuse, and addiction? That's like the progression, right? Mm-hmm. You use it, you
or the
abuse
different
it.
types of people who, like we were talking about, if someone's an addict or not.
What emerging drug?
I also think, like, besides just the,
That's okay. I'd rather you talk.
Sure. Than those silly questions.
No.
Ridiculous questions.
We've kind of focused on the drug part, but I think the drug part is a small part of it. I think the drugs are just the most obvious symptom. So, like, when the drugs destroy my life, I'm like, I have a problem. But I can easily remove the drugs, and still a lot of those issues are there. So, like, when I was using drugs, I thought I was doing it because, like, wow, this felt great, and it did. But I didn't realize I was just running. I was always running from, I didn't know how to handle life. So as opposed to sitting there for a minute, processing it, asking people, how did you get through this?
Asking for help.
Any of that. I was just like, I don't like the way I feel. I don't like the way I feel inside. What can I use from the outside world that will make me feel better inside? And that's how I, like, summarize addiction. I'm using something from the outside to make me feel better on the inside.
That's the story of a lot of people. I think that they're self-medicating, and they're medicating with stuff that does physically addict them. They don't feel right if they don't take it. Yeah, again, like with the cigarettes, I would start. But what I learned is that the craving lasts about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you can get through that 10 minutes, your mind thinks about something else. I do that now even with sugar, or with I'm walking the dog. I see a friends outside who I know I can bum a cigarette from.
Yeah.
But I don't do it. I just keep going, and that craving disappears. I don't think the craving ever goes away.
I think it gets quieter.
But I think it's there. It's like it's.
The longer you stay clean, I don't have cravings. I don't.
You don't have
No.
cravings at all?
No.
I think that's amazing.
Once in a blue.
I can count on one hand in 13 years the amount of times I've actually wanted to use drugs.
Do you know the last time you actually got like I want to do this shit, and then you didn't? But
family is a big trigger.
Is it being with them or
all of it?
The stress that comes with it.
The whole thing. Especially because, my dad is still on these pills. So in my normal life, we have a saying, we try to stay away from people, places, and things. People use drugs, places where you use drugs, things you use drugs with. So in my normal life, I'm not around this stuff. I choose to actively remove myself. I don't go to bars. I don't have any need to.
Yeah, you're not in that element.
Yeah,
which is a smart thing to do.
if I go visit my family, my dad is still on these pills. And every once in a while, the last time it happened was maybe like last year. My mom asked me to help move all of his.
Florida?
Yeah, it was in Florida. My mom asked me to help transfer all of his pills from one spot to another. And I realized that I was holding a bottle of oxys, and it was really difficult because I'm not normally in that situation, and it was very triggering. But I put it down. I walked away. I called someone, another addict, and I didn't. But the thoughts
Is
definitely.
That like called a sponsor, like a sponsor?
Yeah. Because I can't do this by myself.
You just call anybody.
Well, no, I'm not going to call Alan.
No, but I mean anybody.
No, you can call me. I can sit and talk with you. I have no problem.
But the whole idea is like when you were talking, once you get that craving, like break that loop, and reaching out to another person, you're not stuck in your own head.
So you said you relapsed about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
A couple times.
Couple of times,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay, well, what triggered that off?
yeah, so
What was your triggers when you had?
but even like a minute ago where I was kind of trying to get into the feelings part of it. So I think once you put the drugs down, I didn't work on myself. I thought my whole issue was just drugs. And even though I put the drugs down, I didn't really grow that much as an individual. So I didn't learn how to cope. One of my biggest traps was I would put way too much on my plate. I felt like I lost all this time using drugs, and now I got to work full time. I got to go to school full time.
Make up for lost time.
I got to make up for lost time, but I haven't developed any ways to kind of cope with that. So when things become too much, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna have a drink, or I'm just gonna have whatever joint, or because that I didn't have a healthy pressure release valve, and that's all I knew. So the issue is like I didn't change as a person. I didn't grow in those areas where it's like, hey, maybe this is too much for me right now. Maybe I shouldn't be working full time and going to school full time. Like knowing my own boundaries, knowing my limits, so I don't get to the point where I'm just like completely overwhelmed. Like, what the fuck do I do? And at that point, all I know how to do is use a substance to feel different.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that, we've come to understand that like drug addiction is not a moral failing. It's not, it doesn't mean you are a bad person. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It is a disease, so.
Absolutely. No. I've never thought there was something.
No, it's not for you. It's for the people listening. That's a really big misconception. And so, but the disease of addiction, like you said, drugs are a symptom. So it encompasses all these different areas of my life. And once I put down the drugs, if I don't do the work to work on myself, it's just going to come out in all these other ways.
You haven't had a relapse in 13 years.
I relapsed when I had 6 months.
After 6 months?
Yeah.
So you're like 12 and a half years without a relapse.
No. I would have had more. I would have had more time. I would have had 14 years. So.
Well, what got you into the relapse? What happened?
Family.
Oh, here you go.
We had a very different, we have very different stories. I went to a long-term program when I got clean this time around. I was away for 18 months, and I had a visit, your family would come visit, and I hadn't done a lot of real work on myself. Same thing.
You relapsed while you were there?
Yeah. I didn't know how to deal with feelings. I didn't know how to deal with life. And some things came up on the visit that were very painful and difficult to deal with. I didn't know what to do. I saw a bottle of pills. I grabbed them. And what I thought was just going to be a one-time thing. I just wanted to feel better in that moment. No, I emptied the bottle. Because as soon as we pick up where we left off. So even though I had been away for 18 months, as soon as I start using again, I'm the same.
Okay, so
Yeah.
You were in the program, relapsed in the program, but you stayed in the program and they got you back.
I did all
Did they know? Or?
Yeah, I had to come clean. I did all the drugs, and everyone knew immediately. I was nodding and I was lying, and everyone knew. So I had to go back and tell them and start over, and it was devastating. Relapse is devastating. You feel like a failure. You feel like you fucked up, and one day at a time. I now have 13 years.
That was great that you did that, though.
Yeah.
You're lucky it happened. Very lucky it happened in
Yeah.
the program.
Yeah.
Where you didn't have to
Well, it was really like a jarring. A lot of times relapses can teach you something, and I realized that like I don't want to keep doing this. It was very painful.
I hear you. Like
Yeah.
again, I'm going to go back to the cigarettes.
Yeah.
I used to again when I was buying the Lucy's, they were selling like bootleg Newports, so you had the menthol in there.
I know it.
And I would smoke this, but walking the dog, and I had to grab onto the fences. I was so dizzy.
Yeah.
So I say, this is my last cigarette. So the following day, I go and take another cigarette, and I would tell myself, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to yourself?
Oh, it's going to be different this
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
It's going to be different this time.
Yeah.
I said, you're going to kill yourself.
Oh, okay.
You know, what are you doing? You know, my dad had lung cancer. His dad had lung cancer. So it runs in the family, but, you know, I would beat myself up. But then I got sick. Then when I got sick, that's how I quit really the first time. I was a car salesman working at Bay Ridge Honda. And a lot of downtime. He's smoking cigarettes outside, making phone calls. I mean, so I got really sick. And this is when Zach was like 2 years old. And I couldn't smoke in the house. So Susan took Zach out. And I was sick. I was sick as a dog. And so I had a cigarette. So I lit up the cigarette. And I coughed so bad from the first 2 hits of the cigarette. I thought my lungs were going to come out of my mouth. I got nervous. I said, fuck this. I flushed it down the toilet. And I said, if I can get one, didn't smoke anything until I got better. I was ready to go to work. And I said, if I can get through one day on this job without smoking, and I took it one day at a time, and after the week, I said, well, this is 140 cigarettes. I didn't smoke.
Yeah.
And I had my own program.
Yeah. They have apps that calculate how much money you've saved by not smoking.
I did that with cigars. I went from cigarettes to cigars. So I'm smoking these little cigars, $15 a piece, every day. First I started with my Friday cigar. I made it through the week, my victory cigar. So that victory turned into a daily thing.
Yeah.
And
you had a lot of victories.
Yeah. And I end up figuring I'm spending almost $5,000 a year on these stupid little cigars, and they were great cigars too.
I believe it.
And that's what got me out of that. So I really, I could have used the program, but I was my own program. Yeah. Now you relapsed a couple of times also. Now, did you go back on the program, or how did you fix that?
The one thing that I did do right is I never stopped going to the I never stopped making meetings. I made less of them.
You were doing that while you were even getting high?
Yeah, so I think,
And they didn't know?
No, I was very upfront about it. I didn't lie about it. I thought, like, this is something I can handle.
So did you go to a meeting and tell them, listen, I'm here, but I'm high and stuff?
Yeah, so my first relapse was on alcohol. And, kind of what I mentioned before, I was going to school, I was working full time. I got out of a 3/4 house. For those who don't know, 3/4 houses, when you don't have a place to live, it's like a drug program, and, you get to live there in very comfortable circumstances.
What, 5 guys, one room,
like,
bunk beds?
It's like 6 dudes to a room with bunk beds.
Yeah, very glamorous.
Sounds
the
like
size of,
Yeah.
smaller than most people's kitchen.
Except everyone's doing drugs.
But, it kept me off the streets. And at that point, I was like, all right, if I get kicked out of here, what's next? And I didn't want to find out. I didn't, that was bad enough for me.
Well, you say you relapsed a couple of times, am I correct?
Yeah.
What are you talking about now, this place where you didn't want to get, is that the last time you relapsed, or is this
No. So for the first year of my recovery, that's where I was living at. And then I got out of there. I met Gemma. I got my own little... I had a roommate, so I got my own place. But compared to living in the 3/4 house, that felt like my own place, even though I had a roommate.
He was renting a room.
One roommate is better than 5.
Yeah.
But lost my train of thought there.
That's okay. I do that
Your
too.
life got better.
Yeah, so my life got better, but I didn't really do much to change myself. And, after the first relapse, I thought the issue was like, hey, I had a drink. And I was like, I just won't touch alcohol then. I was like, let me go with something even safer, marijuana.
But, he would get a year, 2 years, and then go out. And then, so he would accumulate time.
Yeah. It was almost like, you started again, then the progression started.
Yeah.
So
you started with like pot and Then there was a progression. Was into other drugs.
So I am weird in that sense. I convinced myself that I was like, as long as I don't touch opiates or cocaine, like this isn't really a relapse. At least that's how I had to sell it to myself.
It's very insidious. The disease of
Yeah.
addiction is really insidious. It always starts off in the best possible way. Like the weed relapse started with like, oh, I'm just going to do CBD.
Yeah, I was working in restaurants at the time. I was doing a lot of shifts, especially on the weekends. I would do doubles on Saturdays and a double on Sunday. So by Monday morning, I had class and my body hurt. And I was like, okay, I can't take, real pain medication. So maybe weed would help me. And it didn't. It did absolutely nothing except made me even more tired for the day.
That's what I don't understand. I see people walking my dog, 6, 7, and they're blowing these big blunts. I don't know how they're doing the rest of the day, man. I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah. But that's why I go back to the idea of like, if I focus just on the drug part, I would put the drugs down. And I think as long as I don't, now is like, I can't do marijuana, what else can I do? But the thing I didn't want to look at was like, what do I need to change within me to not want to go to drugs as a solution?
I hear you. Now, I want to trace back a little bit. When you grew up, we talked about this before. I asked about you had a set of friends.
Mm-hmm.
Then the drugs started kicking in.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Your friends change too, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you gravitate, you kind of leave the other people,
Yeah.
and you gravitate towards the druggies,
Yeah.
which we did too. How did that work out? I mean, was it people in school? Was it?
You find your people.
How did you do that?
You just naturally gravitate towards people who are doing what you're doing.
Laws of attraction.
Yeah. But I mean, really, at the end, I didn't have any friends. I didn't have anyone around me who would tolerate my bullshit. I would steal. I would lie. I wouldn't show up where I said I was going to be.
Were you stealing from who?
I would.
Who?
I would steal from anyone who I got. I mean, I stole a lot of money from anyone and everyone who I possibly could.
With people that you knew that invited you to their houses?
Sure.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I stole a lot from my parents. I stole from the business.
Did
And
your parents find out?
later.
And what was their reaction?
Not great.
I believe you owe us something.
Well, I was able to crack. I had a system. I would hold my camera, my phone, and prop it in a way where I could watch them put in the code to various safes.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow,
so
you're
I
like
would.
Mission Impossible.
It
Oh
was.
my
It was.
God.
So whether it was money or drugs, so I would keep cracking the safes, and my mom would go, Gemma, where are the pills? And I go, I don't know where the pills are. She'd go, but there's no one else. Like you have to be taking them. I was like, I don't know, maybe Dad's losing, or maybe it's the cat. I don't know. I would. I would just
Oh,
like.
she had a junkie
Cat's
cat.
Cat's nodding off in the
Yeah,
corner there.
exactly. But I'm the type of person who would steal your shit and then help you look for it. Like I would just lie to your face. So there were no friends at the end, and that is one of the things that I think got so. I was so lonely.
Was that like you're hitting rock bottom?
Yeah, my life was like this small. At the end, it was me in a room, and I didn't leave that room really.
Did you ask for help?
So, I had this moment where I was using in the house. I was using in the house where I lived with my family, and my parents knew I was using, and they didn't know what to do about it. Most families don't know what to do about it.
No. That's one of
Yeah.
the things I like to talk about here,
Yeah.
because if I don't know if anyone's looking, but when we show this, what signals the parents should look for. But I want you to finish your story.
Yeah, so they knew, but I think they were afraid to do something drastic, afraid I would run away, end my life. They didn't know what to do. There's not really a lot of addiction in my family. So there was this moment where I was doing lines off the floor, and my dad walks by, and he sees me.
Cocaine?
I don't know, pills, I don't know, whatever.
You snort them?
Oh yeah,
Really?
you're missing out.
I can remember that. We never snorted the pills.
Yeah.
Oh my
So.
That's why you didn't get addicted.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
my God.
So, he walked by, he looks at me, we make eye contact, And he just shakes his head and he keeps on walking. And it was devastating because it was like he knew
And he didn't say anything.
there was nothing to say anymore. And I was like, it was like
You were devastated.
yeah, I was really devastated. And it
Probably would have been better if he did say
right,
something.
yeah, but it
Well,
was
you think he didn't care?
No, it's
not
not
that he
even
didn't
that.
care.
It's just, I think when it almost
It was like
felt-
he had given up.
Yeah, literally what
Yeah.
Well, when
Yeah.
you give up, it's like,
he doesn't know what else to do at
Yeah.
that point.
And I felt so small and worthless. And so it was a little bit after that I reached out and I asked for help. Not intending to get clean and stay clean as long as I have, just I wanted to stop hurting. I wanted to not be in pain. And because addiction at the end is very painful. It's not fun. It's not glamorous. It's just misery, you know?
it's like the bottom.
Yeah.
It's like you hit rock bottom. And that's what it takes for a lot of people. And some people don't even reach out. Maybe they have no one to reach out to,
Sure.
or they don't know what to do, which is one thing I want to talk about later. You know, how we can maybe give numbers out that people not want to call. Not you personally, but you know, to the organizations and whatever. But that's one of the reasons we are here. You know, if we can help one person, we did our job.
Yeah, and it's important, I think, to know there's a lot of stigma around addiction, so people can see that you can look like me or Eugene and be a drug addict and have this, you know, have a life beyond drugs and recover. Like, I think that's really important because it's not just, there's a lot of stereotypes around what a drug addict looks like.
Well, what do you think the biggest mistakes are of family that are trying to help? Maybe they don't know, or they're not using the right words or the right procedure.
Well, I mean, we were talking before about like the idea of kicking someone out, and I mean, I think what your brother did, as scary as it must have been, really, and I'm not saying anyone should do this, but change, if you wanted to, you know, the trajectory of your life.
So at this point, I had gone to rehab, and while I was in rehab, my mom had passed away. So my dad had already passed away, I don't know, 8-9 years before that. So my drug use got bad enough where I'm crashing on my mom's couch. And not because I didn't even have the money. I was like, I can save money by crashing on her couch and use it for drugs. She was living in like this building that's for like, it's a retirement building. So I'm not supposed to really stay there for more than a couple of days.
Right.
So, and she lived in a studio. We didn't have the best relationship.
Wow.
I mean, it was super toxic. It was just this terrible storm. Like that was getting worse and worse and worse because I'm using drugs. She definitely suffers from some mental illness. So like the combination of me, you know, being high all the time and her having her issues.
Well,
Yeah.
were you helping her at all?
I was.
Trying to just help yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. She was just a couch that I could use so I could save money and use for drugs. So, you know, from that place I went to rehab, and
Now you went to rehab on your own. What I'm trying.
Yeah,
so you had family to help.
Yeah.
You didn't have that
No.
privilege of having that thing there.
So I didn't know anything about like NA or rehab or any of this stuff, and for a long time, I had these pretty decent jobs, and I was like, I can't afford to lose these jobs and go to rehab. This was a different time where I don't think it was as socially acceptable. We didn't see addiction as a disease. So I'm like, if I tell them I have a problem, which I wouldn't have known how to do anyway, unless I just got caught using at work, the reality of like, hey, I'm going to go away, it wasn't there. And when I was staying, you know, with my mom and things started getting really bad into like my addiction, I just got to a point where I was like, I wasn't sleeping for 5 days straight and just using drugs. And something hit me where it's like, if this is what it is, like, I don't want to live anymore. Like, it's got to be better than this. Because I couldn't function anymore. I'd wake up and I'd be like, this shit again, you know? And
Well, did she notice this stuff, or she was just like that? Well, I mean, she was living on her own. See, and she had this mental illness. You're saying?
yeah, she definitely, you know.
How was she functioning?
She grew up in the Soviet Union, so she's that automatically comes with a mental illness.
No, but how was she? You know,
She definitely
doing this
knew
thing on her own.
What do you mean? Like,
How was she? You know, surviving on her
sure.
own
So, like,
with
well,
this condition.
that's
Was she
what
on medication?
she was prescribed medication. She didn't take it. Yeah, and that was the other thing. She always had medication around.
So you would take it.
Absolutely. She had everything there. I mean, she was a hoarder, so like we would have bags like up to here with medications. I'd run out of the fun ones really quick. But there, you know, even when I was coming down off like cocaine or whatever, there was always a benzo or Ambien or, you know, Valley, whatever. Something was always around that I could dig through the bags and find. But when things got bad enough where I'm not sleeping for almost a week straight, and I was using, despite my best efforts to quit, like I was using against my will. I wanted to be done at that point. I couldn't stop.
I think most people.
Yeah. It wasn't
like
fun
you
anymore.
had the same thing. You were using, you didn't want to use it anymore, but you kept using it.
I always tell this story of like I didn't want to use so bad, but the compulsion to use was so strong that I'm calling the drug dealer, and a small part of me is like, yo, please don't pick up. That's the only way I'm not going to use for the next couple hours if they don't pick up. But then
They would pick up.
somebody would, if they didn't, somebody else would get a phone call, you know, because I couldn't stop it. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to ask for help.
How did you end up in rehab?
I think I didn't want to live anymore. It wasn't like any particular, like I didn't overdose, nothing like that. But I had to find something better. That's the one thing I always did in my life. I always try to do, like I always search for things. Because I think there were a lot of bad circumstances, situations, trauma, and I would always be like, there's got to be something better than this. And unfortunately, that thing was drugs that I thought was better than this. And in some ways it was until it wasn't.
So you took yourself to rehab?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Well, weren't you also between jobs? So
Yeah, so that was actually, thank you, that was one of the biggest things. I wasn't working anymore. I was collecting unemployment, and I didn't even get fired from that job, which I totally deserved to. They just removed the position. They gave me like a 3-month severance package. I was collecting unemployment, and I was working a cash job at the same time for this company that dealt with like gray market mechanic parts and shipping them to like Russia. I mean, it was, you know, it was this warehouse in Sunset. Anyway, but I still had a decent amount of money. I had these like 3 sources of income, and I never had money. You know, I would burn through it. Like I would work these 12-hour shifts at that job, and most of the money was gone that same day. I actually even had this guy at work who ended up selling, and that was the worst thing ever. Like I couldn't even finish that day without already being in debt.
You're talking about burning money. I have a friend in the car business, very good friend of mine, and he was a gambling addict.
yeah,
And a little bit of drugs and stuff, but gambling was his main thing. And he lost 2 houses.
yeah.
He went through a few $100,000. His wife got rid of him. He lost his family, lost kids. Now he's still talking with his kids, but it's never the same, you know. And blowing through all of his money, he's has no money today.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing.
Some days I'm like, how did I even come up with that much money to use drugs? And we always figured it out.
Where there's
We
a will, there's a
always
way.
figured it
Well,
out.
you were very good at what you were doing to get money.
Well, if an addict needs to get drugs, we'll find a way.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end, like talking about stealing from people,
Yeah.
at the end, I didn't even think this was that crazy, but I started stealing from drug dealers.
Well,
and-
there was, I told you about this guy, John Gray.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so flash forward maybe 7 years. So, you know, we're like in our teenage years, and we're back at this charcoal chef I was telling you about. About 1:30, he comes over to me and says, "Give me $1." I said, "No." He said, "If you don't give me $1," and this was my best friend at the thing, he said, "I'm going to fuck you up," or whatever he's going to do. I said, "John, are you serious?" He said, "I'm dead serious." I gave him $1. Not because I didn't want to get into a fight with him, but this guy was so desperate.
Yeah.
You know, you can see the desperation in his eyes and his face. It was like watching a movie come alive.
Yeah.
His desperation. But that was the last I saw him too.
Wow.
But it's crazy.
But
Anyway.
you know, it wasn't like I was this tough guy who could steal.
No,
No. But I mean, like when people hear that, like I didn't steal from drug dealers by like intimidating them. Like I would know where their stash is or something. Or as he's like weighing out what I'm actually buying, I'm like, oh, I see a bag over there, and I'll grab that. And I didn't even realize how desperate that was. Like, I remember being at this guy's house, and he had just got raided a little while ago, and I took a cab to his place, and he saw me coming out of the cab, and he's like, "Did you take a cab to me?" He was all paranoid now because he was just a cab. This is before they had Uber. And he's like, "Did I just see you like ask a cab driver to pull up in front of my door?" I'm like, "I didn't give a shit," but I was like, "That wasn't me. What are you talking about?" And he's already high and paranoid and all this. So he got really aggressive. His friend pulled him away for a second, and he had a brick over there of cocaine. And I'm just like, "Oh, while he's away." So I stick my hand in there and I try to rip off a piece. God. And they're coming out, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" I let go, but now my hands are just completely covered. So I wipe it on my pants. There's this giant streak. And he's still arguing with me about the cab, because he's paranoid.
Did he end up snorting you?
No, he was just once I got home. But he already wanted to kick the shit out of me, just that I was being reckless, like taking a cab to his place, to his door, and I'm like, "Oh, that's not bad enough. Let me try to."
Afraid cops are gonna follow you.
Yeah, I mean, he was already high. He was paranoid, and like I said, he got raided a week before that.
That's for sure.
You were telling the story about your brother.
Sure, I'll get right back to it. But anyway, these are the desperate situations that made me take these risks that I normally would never. But, so I got to rehab, and, they called me into the office one day, and they were like, "Hey, have a seat." And I was like, "Oh, shit." Like, I thought I was getting kicked out because I didn't take it super seriously. This was my first time being clean, and I was on cloud 9 because of that, like just not waking up and being sick or having to find a drug. So, but I also didn't know how to deal with feelings, so I used a lot of humor. And
humor is great.
Oh,
people love humor.
But I used it purely to deflect everything. So they asked me to sit down in the office, and they're like, "Hey, your mom passed away last night." And I was like, "Oh fuck," And one of the big things is like now I don't have a place to live. So once I got out of rehab, my brother took me in for a little bit, and I started using again. And at first he wasn't sure or whatever it was, but then he's like, "You can't stay here anymore." And for me, that was, our mom had just passed away.
But she passed away in the hospital?
No, she had a heart attack.
At home?
Yeah. So, yeah, one of the big things is like at least she saw me go to rehab, but she didn't see me get better. So hopefully that was a relief in some ways.
Did you have a decent relationship with your mom at one point? I mean, was she always like...
It was always shaky. Yeah. We never, my parents, like my dad was an orphan from Siberia. So it's not like he had a lesson in parenting.
Right.
And my mom, I mean, they both grew up like during, Soviet Union, during communism. So their big thing is like, as long as you have a place to live and we're feeding you, like we're doing great. And they took care of that, but they didn't know how to teach me any like, hey, if you're afraid, talk to it. Thank you, and they did. But they did the best they could. Like I don't blame them. I think what they did was incredibly brave. Getting out of the Soviet Union and coming to a country with 2 kids, no money, not speaking the language. So yeah, I'm grateful. I'm extremely grateful for the life that they were able to give me here.
Yeah, I think it's great. God bless. You don't interfere with drug addicts, like tell them they have to go to rehab or here, the question I have here, what are the mistakes or the positive thing that families make when trying to help someone that's an addict?
Yeah. I'll just finish. So when my brother kicked me out
on this topic.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah. I'm going all over the place probably.
Me too.
ADHD. But when he kicked me out,
like age.
That too, yeah.
That's me.
I'm older than I look.
Definitely older.
But kicking me out right after our mom had just passed away must have been an incredibly difficult thing for him to do. But at the same time, it's exactly what I needed. And when families ask me, they're like, "Hey, my son or daughter are struggling, like what should I do?" I'm careful to say, like, "Oh, you should kick them out," because I don't have kids. I can't imagine how difficult that is. But I also tell them, like, "Hey, that's what I needed. That worked for me." Because if they have if they have a place where they're comfortable, they're not worried about like where their next meal's coming from. They're not worried about like
Paying rent.
Yeah, paying rent. Am I going to be freezing? You know, any of those things. It's easier to keep going for a lot longer.
Yeah, well, I know parents, friends that their children were like screwed up a little bit, addicts, and they almost blame themselves. And I feel, it's not them. I mean, they can do whatever. They do what they can, but they just sit there and blame themselves, and it affects them.
Of course.
Sure.
Where it's like they're distraught. Oh, my son! Look what I did to my son, my daughter. Whatever.
Yeah, how could you, I think that's a very normal reaction.
It is normal.
But
it's your kids.
if it gives anyone any solace, I believe I was born this way. Like I don't think there's any path that I would have been on that wouldn't have ended up with me being an addict.
In your DNA.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I don't like my parents weren't bad parents. Things. It just ended up this way. It's not anyone's fault. And in regards to what can people do, I think one of the hardest things to realize is that I don't think anyone's going to get clean unless they want to do it for themselves. And you can shake someone, you can try to rationalize, explain, what are you doing? This is bad for you. Do all of these things, jump up and down, scream, but unless someone actually wants to get help, it's very hard
that's
to.
What I'm saying. They got to hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
It's like you can go and you what you become is like a pain in the ass to them.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear it.
Sure.
I'm fine. I'm okay. And they're not.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just takes so long, and hopefully you're gonna get it before they're like, gone, where they're not ODing or stuff or whatever. But parents should really not blame, unless they were real parents would cause it. I don't know.
Still like. So like we go to we do like H&I, which is like H&I stands for like hospitals and institutions.
You travel to different hospitals?
Yeah, so like we do like.
What do you mean by H&I?
It's just a terminology we use. We bring a meeting into a rehab so that people who are in a facility have access to meetings, because otherwise they can't leave, so they can't go to meetings.
Oh,
that's how
you do that now?
Yeah, I mean I would say that's how a lot of people find out about 12-step programs, whether it's AA, NA, whatever it is. So that's how I first found out about it. And
so just say, I'm not saying you do, go to Coney Island Hospital. And
he used to go to Coney Island Hospital.
I used to, yeah. I used to do the detox there.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you detox.
No. I used to.
The meeting.
For their detox facility. I used to bring meetings for their detox facility.
So they didn't have meetings unless someone brought it in and instigated it, the hospital themselves.
Yeah.
So the idea is they can't go outside and make a meeting, so we bring one to them. And I had a reason for saying
I was
this.
like, why? Are you?
No, I had a really. Anyway, if it comes back, I'll mention it.
Well,
I'm surprised the hospital doesn't do that.
Well, they have groups. They have groups, but meetings are run by addicts for addicts. There's no, supervisor. There's no so it wouldn't be the same if a supervisor at a rehab ran a group. When we meet, there's no one running the show. We are all, participating in the meeting.
Can you walk us through what you do in a meeting? If it's new, do you introduce yourself? Do you tell them that you're an addict or a recovering addict? Or run it by me.
Yeah.
What do you do?
So, you can introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Jem. I'm an addict. You don't have to, but most people do. We usually.
Well, I'm going to interrupt. I think you should say that.
Yeah.
So they can relate to it. I mean, if you're a straight guy coming in and want to talk about your addiction, how do you know really what to talk about? Because you can't really relate to them. You, as a former addict, can put the pieces together better than someone that isn't. And
also, there's no last names. Like it's not like we don't. That's sort of the last name. It's anonymous, and that's important. So there's a speaker, so someone will share their experience, usually for 15 or 20 minutes, and then people around the room share. There's coffee, there's cookies, we hug.
Oh, okay. So everyone tells that they introduce themselves, their first name, and they talk about what they've been through, where they're going through. Do you ask them questions?
There's no questions.
Yes.
No
So
question.
usually the speaker.
Oh no, okay.
Yeah.
I've never been to.
No. And I know like different fellowships can do it differently, where they can go back and forth a little more. But the speaker is usually there to kind of either talk on a topic or they set a tone. They set like I don't want to say an agenda.
No, they share their
But-
story.
Yeah, and it gives people a chance to like, hey, I identify with that. So now we're not just randomly raising our hands. Like we're like, oh, I heard what you said, and I can relate to that experience. I felt the same way when you went through that. And that after the speaker shares for about 15, 20 minutes, we open up the floor, and then everybody shares. And off the floor, you share for about 3 or 4 minutes, depending on
Yeah,
the
but
meeting.
people must have questions or.
You
After
can
the meeting.
ask after, but it
Yeah.
would get there's a format, you know.
Yeah.
We meetings have been around since the 40s, you know. NA happens to be what we go to, but I think it's important to say there are so many A's.
Yeah.
There's AA, GA, CA, HA. I mean, there's A's for everything. There's even Naranon, which is Naranon and Al-Anon, which is for parents of people who have
Great.
drug and alcohol
That's
problems. So
great. That's
my mom has been to a million Al-Anon meetings. And it helped her a lot. So parents who are struggling and don't know what to do, there's actually meetings for those people. Parents, loved ones, siblings. Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you a question.
Goody, sit up and speak into the mic. I hope
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't
There you
hear
go.
anything I said for the last hour?
Yeah, no, I heard you, but it was just like you were getting more and more
You're lying.
comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, sit up.
Cut.
I'm falling asleep. It's just no drugs, man. I'm nodding out. It's the alcohol. I was going to. Oh God, I really did. I was going to have a good question.
I went into that direction for a reason, and I can't
About
for the
HI,
life
yeah.
of me.
Flew out of my
Yeah,
brain.
I had a really good point
It'll
to
come
make
back
there.
later when we're at home. It'll.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh man, now I'm like obsessed about it.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
figure it out.
tell us where you actually put these meetings. Where do you have like a circuit that you do?
Well, we can share the website,
Sure, yeah.
you know, so people can find what works for them. Eugene is very familiar with the website. He helps with the website.
Yeah,
You made the website?
I didn't make it, but I helped maintain it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, give them the website.
Sure,
But
so-
repeat it a couple of times.
Sure, if you go to newyorkna.org, full words, so it's,
NewYorkNA.org.
yeah, it's not NY, it's
Right,
NEW.
NA.org.
Yeah.
New York, NA.org.
Yep. And up there we have a helpline number. You can call that anytime.
Do you have that number?
Yeah, sure, I can pull it up.
Now, anyone that knows anybody that is looking for help or you feel might need help, pass this along to them. Pass it forward. Help them out. They can
So-
use it.
Sorry, so the number is 212-929-6262. Also, the website has all the meetings that are in the whole New York region. So, I mean,
Queens, Bronx.
everywhere.
Do me a
Yeah.
favor. Give me that information one more time, please.
Sure. So it's New York, full words, NA.org. So NewYorkNA.org.
It's NEWYO or is it NY?
Yep, yep.
It's the words New
The
York.
whole word.
Yep, the whole word, not abbreviated.
And the helpline is what, 24/7?
helpline is 24/7.
And when you call the helpline, other addicts will answer the
yeah,
phone.
it's not a paid. It's another addict who volunteered, a time slot, and it's their responsibility to pick up during that time slot.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's
And there's a lot of good information on that site. We have events all the time. There's a bunch of flyers up there. Like I said, there's meetings for the whole New York. It's like 12 different areas. But yeah, check it out.
I got questions. I don't know if this means anything. How does stigma impact people struggling with addiction? It's
Well, I think, in more modern times, they see addiction as a disease. And the biggest, not to get too much into it, but I think the biggest thing that helps with is it's not a moral deficiency. That it can be identified as a disease, because it's like if somebody had cancer, couldn't do something or whatever the situation is, you wouldn't give them a hard time for having cancer. You wouldn't be like, hey, you can't go, what do you mean you can't go to work because you have cancer? And it's the same idea. A lot of this stuff, I think, is...
unless you're really fucked up on chemo. And
No, but
you're not
what I'm
going
trying to
work.
say is like you would never give somebody a hard time for not going to work because they have
You
cancer
mean
Yeah.
people,
or not taking
the
care.
bosses, or whatever.
In other
Yeah.
words, it's a disease just
Yes.
like cancer,
Yeah, they
just
have
like
no,
diabetes.
they have no
yeah.
control
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
shitty they might be feeling.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I can't believe you didn't take the kids to school today
It's
because
still
you
a
have
different
cancer.
stigma. People still stereotype.
Well, the other,
They do,
To
Yeah.
drug
but
addiction.
I think it helped a lot
yeah.
categorizing it as a disease in mental health.
The other thing is that, you know, you don't have to be smoking crack or shooting heroin to be an addict. You know, I think that there's a really common misconception that you have to look a certain way to be an addict. And there are people who get clean just, you know, weed has ruined their lives or just pills. Like I never, you know, shot up, but that doesn't mean I'm not an addict. And I had a lot of issues. I mean, I got clean at 17 and that's not common.
Wow, that rhymes.
But I had a lot of
You
issues.
made that into a song.
Yeah.
Clean as 17. Wow.
I had a lot of issues thinking I'm too young to get clean. I hadn't done enough drugs. I had done quite a bit, but I had never done certain things that other people had done, or I could probably still maybe use more. But the truth is that your bottom is when you stop digging, and I didn't want to dig anymore. But you know, there's a lot of stigma around what drugs and how bad it gets, and really. You can be an addict and get help no matter what the substance is.
Well, I think, you know what? I think this was a great conversation. Again, I really want you to tell people if they're looking to get help, give that one more time.
So
New York.
it's newyorkna.org, fully spelled out. So it's NEWYORKNA.org. But more importantly, even is the helpline number, which is 212-929-6262, which also stands for 212-929-NA, if that's easier to remember. But yeah, and you could always you can go into Google and type in New York NA, and that should come right up as well.
Yeah, and these are people, these are organizations that want to help. So don't be afraid to give this out, or if you know anybody that needs it, or if you need it, you want
That's
to
what they're there for.
talk to somebody, please, you'll feel great. Well, you'll help somebody and they'll feel great. It'll make you feel great.
Yeah, I mean,
so you both feel great.
This is how it works. Like, you know, one of the reasons I do H&Is when I was in why I go to rehabs and detoxes is when I was there, I couldn't understand why those people came in. I'm like, why are they spending their time with us?
I always say, we come here for free. We're not paid to be here.
Yeah, I haven't got paid for it in a while. No, I never got
You know
paid.
what? You do get paid for it.
But that,
feel good.
but that's exactly
That's your
it.
payment. You're doing something terrific.
And our program heavily relies on paying it forward because somebody did that for me.
Absolutely.
And that's why I was sitting there and I'm like, if I ever get my shit together, I want to do what they did. And that's how we survive. That's how we operate. It's like if somebody doesn't do it for one of us, we can't do it for somebody else, but it's important for us to do it for someone else.
Do you still have sponsors?
I still regularly go to meetings. I have a sponsor. I sponsor women. I do service. It's a big part of my life, and frankly, I wouldn't have a life. I wouldn't be here. I feel like I'm living on borrowed time. So, you know, but I think it's also important to say, like, our lives have done a complete 180. You know, I have a life that I never would have expected today. You know, we have amazing, we've built careers. We got married, we own a home, we have dogs, like, you know, really like things that are, when you're a using addict, are just beyond your wildest
Well, you
dreams.
don't even give a shit about that stuff.
No.
Yeah.
I looked at people who had a 9 to 5.
Priorities are different at that
Yeah.
point.
Those people were suckers who had a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really, it gets so much better. And, you know, like, I used to think I wouldn't have fun, or like, and we have so much fun. And I used to think that like life would be boring, and it's not
Do you
boring.
find that you sponsor people too?
Yeah.
That they call you? You ever get phone calls?
Yeah, I was on the phone with a sponsee just before this.
What do they call you for?
Help.
No, really.
Yeah.
They said we're thinking about doing something, or we did it. Or...
No, it's actually not even that severe. It's like we check in with each other. We just talk about things that are going on in our day, or talk things through, because, you know, when you get it off your chest and you talk about things, it releases. It's like a pressure relief valve. So
Like sometimes I tell them when I go to a rehab or whatever, they're like, oh, so why do you do this? I'm like, I come in here with my bullshit. listen to a little bit of your bullshit, and both our bullshit gets better.
I think you guys are so great, and I really appreciate you coming here and discussing this stuff.
Also, like, anybody who thinks like this is impossible for them, or all of us came in feeling that way. None of us came in like, wow, this is great, it's gonna work. We all came in like, oh fuck, I can't.
Hesitant, skeptical.
Just feeling like it's impossible, and there's really nothing special about either one, really.
And it might take a couple of times.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, it's not just you go in and you're done.
It's not linear.
And it's a life experience. I mean, you got to keep going for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what you just put one foot in front of the other, and eventually things just start getting a lot better.
Well, again, you guys got a lot of guts to talk about this, and I appreciate it, and I hope
Thanks
if
for
even
having us.
I don't know if anyone's even watching this stuff, but we'll get it back on. We're just going to put it on.
You got 2 watchers.
Jason's.
Kobe.
We got 2.
Yeah, you got 2.
Who's you and Kobe?
No, we're so happy that
Yeah.
you've asked us, and I'm grateful to be able to talk about it.
All right. What we're going to do now is you gotta eat it to believe it.
Yeah.
We're going to sign the wall.
Okay.
All right. I gotta get up. I gotta get a pen. You can keep this thing running. You can talk and maybe sing them a song or something.
You start.
No, I'm good. I'm all.
Give her a beat.
Well, I'm 17 and I'm clean. Go.
Oh no, no one wants to hear that. You'll lose the 2 people really quickly.
Right.
That's it. Oh man, this is why I'm here.
17 and
I'm really just here to sign the wall. I'm really just here to sign the wall. All of this, whatever,
That's okay.
but
We're not even live.
no one hit record.
This has been a dress rehearsal.
Yeah. That's why nobody put makeup on me.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
we had a dress rehearsal 2 days ago, and I told you we had 2 people.
Yeah.
One wanted to see Kobe.
Yeah.
One wanted.
I don't blame them. Kobe's a pretty dog.
I know you guys can't see him, but he's right here.
Oh, I'll show 'em.
Okay, we have a
There you
magic.
go.
we
Hey,
Kobe.
Okay.
Kobe has to get a
Folks,
feature.
we are going
All right.
to sign this wall of fame.
Where am I signing?
Pick a square.
All right.
Pick a square.
All the way up there.
I'll sign over
you know,
here.
You're running out of squares. You can even sign here if you like.
Okay.
You'll be in every podcast, like Mustafa.
All right.
Yeah, you sign it here. Sign it. Put a date on there.
You're supposed to stay within the bricks.
That's okay. That's all right. You can do
No.
it.
I'm messing with you.
You know, that was a small brick.
Give me.
That's
Put
what-
the date on it.
What's
Put
today's date?
The 10th.
Time?
Come on, we had a date for the
Oh,
10th.
yeah. Been thinking about this day for months.
17 and clean. All right.
Oh my God.
All right.
Oh,
There you go. Eugene.
Yeah, it's harder than you think.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? People that did it here, it's double.
Oh.
So you didn't have that much bumps in there.
It's always harder for people like us.
Eugene.
good enough.
Date.
Oh,
Oh man.
How did it feel doing this?
Great.
Isn't it great? You forget about the cameras. You just get into the moment.
Yeah, that's good.
Anybody who wants to do this, we're going to be doing live stuff. You want to sing, you want to do comedy, you want to talk about depression.
where am I standing?
Or do all 3.
Yeah. Or you'll sing and do comedy and realize that you suck and be depressed.
Oh.
There you go, like me. All right.
All right.
Come here, guys.
Yeah.
Bring it in.
Yeah.
Eugene, Gemma, this has been one of my enjoyable podcasts that I've had, and it's live. I hope the 2 people that are watching this like it.
They're probably my mom and dad. No.
Oh, yeah. Do they know it's alright?
No,
That's
no,
dumb.
I told them.
Oh, so
I told them.
Yeah.
But say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night. I want to thank everybody. Jason, you did a great job.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Jason.
Jason.
My man Jay. And again, if you ever want to come to my place, Goody's my place, you have something you want to talk about, something you want to promote,
Come on down.
hit us up.
Yeah.
My place will become
And you could sign the
your
wall.
place.
Sign the wall.
Got a brick for you guys.
No pun intended.
That sounds